everybody, welcome back. My name is Chef Rob. Today we are going to make a really delicious dinner. It is a stuffed tenderloin of pork, and we're going to stuff it with spinach, sun-dried tomatoes, and mozzarella cheese. Really good, and then we'll put some baby potatoes around it and roast them with it. Okay, so let's get started. Pork tenderloin is the filet mignon of pork. One of the things I like to do with the meat before I start trimming it is put it in the freezer for about 20 minutes to a half hour. Get a little frost on it. It's easier to trim. Okay, so look at this beautiful pork tenderloin. If you see on here, just a minimal amount of fat, but there is always this what you call silver skin on there. See how that is on there? You really do need to take that off, because that will make your dinner very, very tough. So we're going to trim this up. We want to get all of that off of here. And then we're going to season this meat. And I'm going to show you how to stuff it. And you could always change it around. You could always add some prosciutto to this. You could do roasted red peppers in it instead of the sun-dried tomatoes. A lot of different ways that you could change it. Don't want to add too many things that have a lot of moisture to it, because the moisture, then it will kind of just kind of lose its texture inside the pork tenderloin. Okay. And then on the bottom we have a little bit of fat, just a little bit. So when you're buying pork tenderloin, you're really getting your money's worth, because there's such little waste on it. Best place to buy these is in the clubs, because the clubs have them at such a great price. Usually there's 2 in a pack, and sometimes it'll be about $15 for 2 of these. So you can make about 10 dinners on 2 of these pork loins for $15, which is unheard of. And pork has come back down in price. It was up pretty high for a while, but now it's back down to earth. Okay. Again, just if you see any of that little silver skin on here, just take that off, and that will be it. Just that. Has just a little bit of frost on there, which is fine. And I'm going to finish it right here. Okay, we will just get rid of this fat. Now what I like to do is take my fillet knife, and I'm going to go right down the middle, but I'm not going to cut it all the way through. I'm going to cut it about 3/4 of the way, and then I'm just going to kind of open it up and just kind of almost like you're butterflying it. And you can even very carefully just open it like that. Now what we're going to do is take a meat mallet to this. And you could see it's pretty thick still. We're going to pound it out until it's about 3/4 inches thickness. Okay, so that way it's going to spread out a little bit. We're going to be able to stuff it, and then we're going to wrap it and tie it up and then roast it. Okay. So I am just pounding this out until it's about 3/4 of an inch thick. I want to make sure the meat is really even all the way through. That way it will make sure that one part of the meat is not overcooked or one is not undercooked. Okay. Just going to flip this over. And then we are going to season the meat. Okay, so I bought this packet of Italian seasoning. We just need about a teaspoon. Has some salt in it, has a nice flavor to it. So I'm actually just going to put about a teaspoon worth out onto my hand, and I'm just going to lightly season it, and throws off a nice flavor in here. And then I want to add some kosher salt. Just season it really good, maybe just a little bit more in here. And then some fresh ground black pepper. This is going to be really good. I am going to take some spinach, some shredded mozzarella cheese, and sun-dried tomatoes and stuff the inside of the pork now. I'm going to start with the spinach. You do want to make sure that you get all of the water out of it. So if you just defrost a box of frozen spinach, you want to make sure you squeeze all that water out. Or if you drop it into hot water, make sure you squeeze it all out and then cool it first, because you don't want to put the hot spinach into the pork, especially if you're not going to cook it right away. Okay, so I am going to take this here. This is about a half a box of one of those that you get in the frozen aisle in the supermarkets. Okay, so it should look really dried like that. So I am just going to kind of sprinkle this onto this pork loin. And then I am going to grate some mozzarella cheese. Looks good. Change these gloves. The mozzarella cheese, that also you can put into the freezer. And another trick that I've learned is just take a little bit of spray on the outside here. That way the cheese doesn't stick to it. And it'll come right off. The mozzarella cheese, you're using about 3/4 of a cup. If anything, maybe a touch less, because you don't want to waste it where it kind of oozes out. Okay, that should be just fine. I'm just going to sprinkle this all on here. Spread it nice and evenly. Again, if you're not a sun-dried tomato fan, the roasted red peppers work really, really well in here. And now I'm going to cut up the sun-dried tomatoes. You can slice them or give them a nice chop. Okay. Using about 1/3 of a cup of sun-dried tomatoes. Sun-dried tomatoes you could make yourself, but there's no reason to make it yourself because they take 10 hours in an oven in about a 200-degree oven. So I always say buy them. All it does is take a plum tomato with a little salt and pepper, and you put them in an oven and you slow cook them all day long. Why not let the manufacturer do that work all for you? Okay. Even a little bit of artichoke heart would be fine in this. Again, make sure you get that water out. So this is about 1/3 of a cup of the sun-dried tomatoes. Just going to sprinkle this on here. And what starts off as not such a huge piece of a big piece of pork really turns into a really nice meal. So I want to very carefully turn this over. Okay, you can see how big it actually gets. And now I am just going to get my string and I'm going to put it underneath the pork loin, and we're going to tie that up so everything stays together. On occasion you get a little bit that falls out, but that will be fine. Okay, let's take our string. I'm just going to kind of lay it out like this, and then I'm going to put the pork tenderloin that is stuffed right on it, and then we're going to tie it up just like that. I start with this one here. Make sure you tie it pretty tight so nothing does fall out, and go all the way down. It's easier to do the two ends first. So I'm going to take my baking pan with a piece of aluminum foil on here. I'm just going to give it a quick spray so this way it doesn't stick to it. We're going to take this stuffed pork tenderloin sure everything's all in line, tucked in nicely. And now we're going to put some kosher salt and some black pepper all around it. Just some coarse salt on there. Okay, and now some fresh ground black pepper. Okay, now we're going to take our baby potatoes, about a pound of the baby potatoes, and we're going to cut these in half, and then we're going to put them in a bowl, and then we're just going to toss them with some extra virgin olive oil, some kosher salt, and some black pepper. Put some extra virgin olive oil on here. Just drizzle a little bit on there, about a tablespoon and a half. A little bit of kosher salt. And some freshly ground black pepper. Toss these around, make sure the oil gets and the salt and pepper gets covered all on these potatoes. And now let's surround it around our pork roast, stuffed with the spinach, the mozzarella, and the sun-dried tomatoes. We're going to put this into a 400-degree oven for about 30 minutes. And then we're just going to let it rest. And then after it rests, we want it to be, if you want it medium rare, cook it to about 140, 145. And if you want it medium, about 160 to 165. Our stuffed pork roast just came out of the oven about 5 minutes ago. So it has been resting. So let's just lift this. Put it on our carving board. I'm just going to take the string off of here. Make sure you cut that off. Of course, that is just to hold all of the sun-dried tomatoes, the cheese, and the spinach in here. Now, this should not need anything else, but some people do like a gravy. So if you do, I would suggest like a brown type of gravy, or even like a Mozzarella sauce would be really, really good with this as well. Still very, very hot. I cooked this a little above 145, so I'm about a medium rare temperature. And this one, it was a big pork loin, so it took about 38 minutes. So just be prepared that it could be 30 minutes and it could go as high as 40 minutes. But you don't want to overcook it. So let's carve this, and you'll see how juicy it is and how it is stuffed inside. Cut it as thin or as thick as you want. You can see it looks really, really nice with the spinach inside, the sun-dried tomatoes, and the mozzarella cheese. Leaving this open face just like this really shows off the beautiful color that it has. So you can always put the brown sauce on the bottom of the plate. That way this still shows its beauty. So I am just going to layer these across the plate just like this. And now take the roasted potatoes. Just be cautious, they're very, very hot because they've been in a 400 oven. While you are letting the pork rest, you can always take the potatoes, put them back in the oven to get them nice and crisp. But all that nice juice from the pork roast on this makes it taste really, really delicious. And this is a meal that you could serve all year long. So there it is. You can always garnish it with a little Italian parsley if you wanted, but with the color of the spinach, you don't even need it. So I hope you will enjoy this with your family and friends, and thank you again for watching another class with Chef Rob. Bye-bye. I'm hooked on a feeling, I'm high on believing.